Amazing. Okay, we are live. I'm gonna check in on the stream here. I'm curious to see if we have people kind of logged in on Twitch or maybe on on YouTube Live. If you do have an account with Twitch, you should be able to comment. So if you are here joining us at Creator Fest. Let us know in the chat. Oh, okay, Cozy Coder in the chat. Hey, y'all, how's it going? How's it going? I'm really excited to be on Twitch and on YouTube live today. You'll see, like, yeah, we're doing stuff a little bit differently. Mostly because we took in that feedback of you all wanting to, if you were at our like GitHub Foundations, our GitHub Foundations classes, then we weren't able to kind of like chat in the chat like we really wanted to, and so we really wanted to bring a more interactive opportunity. So really excited. I see we have about 15 people here viewing so far. We'll give it like a minute or two for people to join in, but really excited. And again, if you do want to participate in the chat, go ahead and sign up for Twitch really quickly, just so you're able to chat with us. You know how we do it at Creator Fest. We keep it light, we keep it fun, we keep it, we kiki all up in here. So really excited, but I won't delay. So welcome everyone to another workshop with Creator Fest. Really excited to have you here today. So for those who don't know me, my name is Darlise Calix, co-founder of Creator Fest. I'll be your technical support for this session, and today's session is working with Google Model Garden Solutions with Cristina Rodriguez. Before we get started, I just want to make sure everyone is set up for a great experience. So first off, like I said, we're on Twitch. So if you do want to participate in the chat, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat as well. We'll be monitoring the chat very closely. We'll put your questions up on the screen as well, just so it's easy for everyone to be able to see those questions or any comments. If you have any like cute, funny, interesting comments that you want to put, we'll put them up on the screen. And if you have any issues during the session, feel free to reach out to myself or anyone marked as a moderator within the chat. I'll be here the entire time to help out. A quick note about today, like I said, if you want to share reactions, use the chat to engage. And also, this will be, since this is also streaming on YouTube Live, this will be also recorded, so you can look at the recording after this. If you miss anything, or if you find that you can't participate for the entirety of the workshop, also we'll have a bunch of resources that we'll share in regards to this workshop. We'll share all those resources, the recording, and any slides after this workshop as well. So don't worry if there's something that you may miss, or you're like, wait, can we go back to that? I really want this information. We'll have that information for you after this session. And then we'll also have some information on if you want to go to Cascadia JS, you want to go to that conference. We do have a scholarship opportunity for that. So just keep an eye out on your email. If you are interested, we'll have that information for you. So like I said, let's keep this interactive. Let's keep this fun. I hope you all are signing up for Twitch, getting ready to be up in this chat, just so you can communicate with myself or communicate with Cristina, ask any questions that you may have. We'll keep this interactive. We'll keep it fun. But I am thrilled to introduce our amazing speaker for today's workshop, Cristina Rodriguez.
Thank you so much, Darlene. Thank you, all of you, for being here. I'm super excited of this workshop. I will try to show you, I will show you how to work with generative AI using Stable Diffusion and connecting that with Hugging Face and Google Model Solutions with one click, very easy to use in all your projects. So I'm super excited that all of you are here. This is my third time giving this workshop, and I think that will be perfect. So let me start a little of what I want to do for today. This is our agenda. This is the topics that I want to discuss with you, and you will see here that we will have a part of hands-on project. I will show you code, and at the end of the session, I will share with all of you in the email that saying thank you for being here, all these links, the links with my slides, the links with my Google Colab environments, everything. So don't worry too much about taking notes or following the code. I'm more interested that you understand what is happening and that you understand what Stable Diffusion does and how it works and why it's so cool as a foundational model. So I will talk a little about what is exactly generative AI, explain how Stable Diffusion works and why they is a foundational model for generative AI. And then we move to work with basically how to work with this model, how to fine tune the model, and uh, deploy that model on Hugging Face and connect it with the Google servers, so you have endpoints and basically an API ready to work in any as a backend of any of your projects. With that, let's start with a little about me. I'm a full stack software engineer with 3 years of experience creating curriculum development. But my background is in communications. I came to the tech industry for a non-traditional path, and that made me super passionate about diversity and inspiring others to embrace the tech industry and learn the topics. The huge amount of things that you can learn in the tech industry is never ending. So that's the reason I'm volunteer for these kind of workshops. Every single time that I create a project and I learn something new, my first reaction is teaching that to somebody else. So super happy to be here. Now, this is the learning objectives of this session. I will show you code I wasn't telling you, and you will have all these links. But what I really want is that you understand what is the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning, because I have seen people using those terms interchangeable, and they are not. And I think that when people confuse the use of the terms, is really just like serving as a blocker for people that want to learn, and there is no necessity for that. Then we will talk about generative AI as a subset of deep learning. And specifically, I will talk about the Stable Diffusion and how it works and why it's a foundational model and what makes so interest working with Stable Diffusion. And of course, we will have the part of the code and you will see how it works real life, which is super cool because it's also fast and open source. So let's talk about generative AI. If you need to think about AI, I have a good metaphor for all of you, and it's that AI is a discipline. So you can think about AI as math or physics, like the whole discipline that basically focus on creating systems that are intelligent, but understanding intelligence as that they can perform a task that usually require human intelligence. We can discuss later that little spin of definition of AI. But then AI is the whole field. If AI is machine learning is a subfield of that AI. And what machine learning is focused is that create programs that can learn from data and improve over time. And it is important that I'm telling you that they learn from data because they don't learn by themselves. They need the data in order to learn. So that's machine learning. Now, machine learning offers a huge amount of techniques. One of each is deep learning. So deep learning use artificial neural networks, which is basically that they discover that machine learners can learn as the human brain learn, because they can receive data from different sources as our neural brain cells does. So that helps to the machines, that helps them to recognize patterns in huge amounts of data. And basically, deep learn is what is behind today most impressive AI advances like voice recognition, image classification. Everything is basically deep learn. And inside deep learn, we have generative AI, which is basically a process that focus on creating new content. So now we are not, machines are not just learning for and recognizing patterns from huge amount of data. They can create a new content, and that's generative AI basically. That new content could be anything, could be image, text, code, video. Pretty much anything that you are seeing in the AI space now is generative AI. Now, in order to create this new content, what generative AI is using, especially in image that convert from text to a new image, is a foundational model that is called Stable Diffusion. And I want to explain Stable Diffusion, but first, let's pause here and let's go back to what is an image for a computer. So an image for a computer is just a pixel, well, a collection of pixels, right? And each one of those pixels are basically a number in the RGB channels. So for example, the white color is 255 to 55 to 55 in each one of these channels. If that's white, black will be 0, 0, 0, because the range for each one of the channels is from 0 to 55. So that's how the machines, without AI or anything, this is the basic how the machines understand what is an image. Now, this is how it works since they created the computers and everything. But now that you know that an image for a computer is only basically a matrix of numbers, we can play with those numbers. So we can do, if you start changing randomly each one of those numbers for each one of the channels of the RGB configuration for an image, you can introduce something that the photographer is called noise. And basically what you can have is introduce noise in an image until you don't have an image anymore, you have only noise. Now this in fairness, you can do this programmatically. You still don't need machine learning for this part of the process, because it's basically creating a loop for each one of the pixels in the image for each one of the channels of the RGB channel. So there is no problem so far there that the computer cannot handle. What Stable Diffusion does is telling you, well, what happened if I start from noise? And how I can tell the computer, once you have noise, try to find the image that is behind that noise. And that's the magic of Stable Diffusion, which is actually not magic, it's just the repetition of the model again and again until the machine learn to recognize the pattern. It's basically a pattern. Now, the model works with text. So basically, this is the diagram of the whole model. So you start with a prompt. The user give a input text. In this example is Paradise Cosmic Beach. And the text encoder that is inside the model convert that text in numbers, because computers understand numbers. And that send that matrix of numbers to the image information creator that is basically mapping how that image should look. And how they can map that, because the machine learning, the machine has trained on recognize the patterns from noise on image, hundreds of photos there. But here is only is working only with numbers. It's not really working with the image itself. It's just a matrix of numbers because it's the language the computer understands. And then when they have a matrix that the computer think is the image, they send it to the decoder that convert that image into something that we actually could see as humans. So in short, the stable diffusion process will go from words to numbers to noise image to a picture that we understand. And I think it's super cool. Is one of the foundational models that's open source, and I think that it works with the simplicity of the idea of that the computers handle numbers to make something amazing, because now we can create content that wasn't there before. We can have a space for questions. So if I lost you at some point of this process, just let me know and I try to explain again what is stable diffusion and how to work. And now let's talk a little about Google Model Garden. Basically, Google created this platform that provides ready to use space for all the AI models that are there in the moment. These things are changing very quickly. Every single time that I open the tab is completely different. But the idea is that you can fine tune the model wherever you need it, and then publish it here on Model Garden. So it's super easy to use as a backend of your projects. And the most important thing for people that works on the open source is that it's still very cheap to use, even if you are using constantly. This 2023, it were super expensive to use these models, but it gets easy and cheaper each time, each interaction of this process. So that's something to consider. But now that we are in half of the session, let's see some code. So I will stop the slides and I will show you here. Again, I will give you access to this Colab, all these links. So don't worry too much and follow the link, trying to understand what is happening. So basically, we are working on Google Colab space, because computers might, like for example, my local don't have the capacity to run this model, even in the most lightweight version, the LoRa version, is still way too big for the CPUs. We need to use a GPU, and that we can use it very easy in a Google Colab. You will see here that I'm connecting to a GPU with Python 3, and that I have a bunch of space on the disk. This is the first thing that you need. Well, when I give you this link, the first thing that you need to do is create your own copy of this one. Once you create your own copy, then you go here and connect with a GPU. This will give you a bunch of examples of things that you can connect. Please use a GPU, otherwise it will tell you that it runs out of space, and the experience is not cool. So anything that you will see that have exclamation point is running in the computer itself, in the computer that Google let you. Anything else is basically Python 3. So these first 3 lines of code, what I'm doing is going to Hugging Face and basically download the diffuser, which is the Stable Diffusion um, requirements and all the things, all the process that you need to have. It takes, it doesn't take that long. I just run in and it was like 5 minutes. You will see here running all the things that it needs to run and all the requirements. And then we have these 2 lines of code that is basically creating a config file, very simple. This is Python. You will see that it doesn't have the exclamation point. Then more installations because we need to save the things that we work in the computer, in the CUDA, so more of installations. And here is where we are using the model. And I cannot click here again because you will see this model takes between 10 and 50 minutes to run. So I will not touch this one. But basically what we are doing is running the model with the Stable Diffusion version 1.5. This is this second line. And we are telling that recognize me. Now, the idea of me for a computer, it start for the base of the idea of a class. For all of you that understand a little of Python, you have the instance of a class. So for the computer, I am instance of a class. And of course, in this case, my class is a woman. So that's the class prompt that you will see here. If I were training this on photos of my dog, probably I will create some other handle according with her name, and here it will be a photo of a dog. Or if you are training with your cat, a photo of your cat. Like the fine-tuning of the model use that idea of a class. Then I will have this resolution because my photos, my original photos, are in this resolution. So for consistency, I create this one. And then I'm hearing here that train with 1,000 steps. I mean that I really want that they train in my face. And the class image only 100. So those are the parameters that you can play around. You can play with more steps, less steps, more class. If you are, if you need to be something very specific, that's the idea of training, fine tuning the model. And you will see here how it takes because I tell that it needs to really train with 1,000. Then this line of code is just saving the content in this folder in order to be able to use it. And that's it. It's saved and it tells you that it's saved in a JSON file, kind of. And once you have that, you can use it. So for example, let's give in this another prompt. And this one I can run because it's very quickly. Look how quickly it is. And of course, it doesn't look like me, but it's because I have run this prompt several times testing the model. So it's start to doing crazy things because I've been running this model. Now you can think why I thought about this project, why as I was interested in creating this thing, is because I did something that is called Cristina Multiverse. It's basically, I was super influenced for the picture everywhere, everything, everywhere, all at once, where they create this idea that you can have live in all the multiverses, but I recognize that I don't have so many imagination to create all the multiverses. So I create these platforms where people can prompt one of the multiverse and the AI will generate an image of me with that. And that's the reason I start to investigate and I was interested on creating all of this. Now, with this model, when you have this model here, you still cannot work with that on the back end. It's just here in a Google Colab. It's not something that you can use in a project. But that's where Hugging Face and Google Colab are working now super easy. So in these 2 lines of code, I'm just logging to my Hugging Face account with my credentials, and then I export in this fine-tuned model with the name that I wanted. And you can see it here now in my Hugging Face dashboard. You can see that I have the model exported, and it tells you everything that you need to know about the model. You can edit this README file in order to share more interest with the community, things like that. And now the deploy is just one click away. So when you click here on inference endpoints, it will give you this page, which is amazing because here it will tell you how many requests to the model have been done. This is the things that I told you that I was testing the model and asking again and again the same thing. And that's why it starts to hallucinate. And it tells you the cost of deploying this and making public. And why do you want to have something public? Because it gives you an API to use. So now, well, this is scaled to zero, but let me make it to run again while I explaining this. With, you see how it initializes immediately because I'm making the call here. But well, it's scaled to zero after 50 minutes with node activity. So you don't pay for non-use, which is super cool when you are using something. And what we are doing here, what you need here is that it will tell you a URL, and you basically do an API call, which is the thing that I'm doing here. In a minute, when it runs, it will give you this API call, this API URL. So you can make, it's basically an API call, GET request. It doesn't even do, well, I'm posting because I'm changing the image and creating a new image. But basically here I will see in a minute that initialize, that end the initialize, I will see the same idea of the whole model, but now as an API endpoint. And now I can use it in my project, and that's how I use it on the multiverse. So that's how you connect with your model, your fine-tuned model with Hugging Face and with Google Colab in just one click. And you can change the instance here in case that you need it, because it tells you, here it is. It tells you that you can also connect with Amazon services or with Microsoft Azure if you want it. It gives you all the codes that you needed. It tells you which one is incompatible. I'm not paying a pro subscription, so some of them are incompatible. Super easy to use, and it gives you back all the information that you need, so you are not paying for something that you are not using. And that's it. That's my presentation. I think we have a space for questions.
Thanks so much for that, Cristina. Yes. If there are any questions, if you're in the chat, drop them in the chat below. I guess I can ask a question. Any advice for people who are probably like, in the beginning stages of working with like AI and models and stuff like that? Like, what are maybe like some great resources for, just getting started and getting like your hands dirty with this kind of technology?
Yes. My first advice will be don't pay for anything. There is of free resources there, a huge amount of free resources. So Free Code Camp have a huge course on AI, and it's completely free. Google, Hugging Face, all of them has free resources. So as long as you are trying only to understand what is happening, don't pay don't pay for anything. A huge amount of free resources, and you could not believe it.
That's a good question. Okay, thank you for that. Someone asked, and I'll put it up here. Once the model starts hallucinating, how can you combat the hallucinations?
You need to change the prompt and giving like force them to think about recognize another pattern. I don't want to use the verb think because they are not thinking, they are recognizing patterns. But once that you are asking the same and the same, they start to hallucinate it because it's basically like I show you a pattern and you are telling me that do it again and again. So one thing that you can do when you are fine tuning your model is ask for another question, completely opposite. So they will force to recognize another pattern.
Thank you for that. What would you say are the biggest misconceptions around utilizing AI technology?
Yes, one of the biggest one is that they are thinking when they are creating this, and that's the idea behind why I explain you how Stable Diffusion works, because it's actually not thinking; it's just recognizing the patterns of that noise on the pixels on each one of the RGB channels of the image. It's just that it has a huge amount of image, so it recognizes the patterns of those processes. But it's not thinking when it's creating something new. It's just because it has access to all this data, it can recognize patterns. Way too fast also. That's also true. Also, it's something like it's an advance. It's kind of magic. It feels super impressive. But I really believe that we make no mistake calling intelligence or thinking, or because it confused people. And I think in creating that the machines are thinking, and they're not thinking. They're really good, really good at recognizing patterns.
Recognizing patterns. That's a good point. What would you say are some real life use cases for working with these sort of like models? Like, what can people build outside of this?
Well, this one that fine tuned with my face, I have to recognize it's not impressive anymore because you can do now that with ChatGPT, but you can fine tune the model with the styles too. So it create something always in a Rembrandt style, or you can fine tune the model to it recognize you in different scenarios, like in the mountains, in the beach, and kind of thing. And really, your imagination is the limit. And fine tuning is not expensive. It used to be super expensive, but it's not anymore with these open source projects.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I don't think we have any more questions in the chat, just in case someone may be typing out. Thank you all so much for attending. And thank you so much, Cristina, for this amazing workshop. For those who are watching, give us some feedback. Let us know what you thought of this workshop. Give Cristina, give Creator Fest some feedback. Let us know what we can do better in the future. You'll see a QR code, I think, to the upper left or right. I'm not sure how it's, orienting, but you'll see the QR code. Feel free to scan that and go ahead and give us some feedback. I also put the link in the chat as well. So just let us know how we did so we can continue to improve. We'll be doing a lot more testing in the future in terms of our setup, but I mean, we like Twitch, so maybe we'll stick here for now. But we're also streaming on YouTube Live, and then we'll also start likely streaming on LinkedIn Live as well, just to give you multiple places to join us. But in order to get, I think, the full experience of what it means to engage with us and engage with the community as we continue to grow, I would highly suggest, following us on Twitch, creating an account so you get more access to specific chat features, emojis, stuff like that. But we'll continue to improve the process as we continue to go on. Rain says, thank you. But yes, thank you all so much for attending. Like I said, this was recorded, so if you missed out on anything or want to go back to anything, we'll have that recording for you. We'll also share resources that Cristina has shared for you to kind of work on this on your own, maybe build out your own things, and feel free to share those things with us on LinkedIn. Tag us, let us know like what you learned, how this went. And how you implemented this technology with your own side projects. So really excited to see what you all build. Amazing. Any last thoughts from you, Cristina? Anything you want to share about anything that you're doing or you want people to keep an eye on?
Keep an eye on Stable Diffusion. I am working with one of the first versions, 1.5, but I think they are already in the 3 version, and it's super interesting. It could do video now. There is a whole community of people working with Stable Diffusion foundational model. So if you are interested in generative AI, I will recommend that follow the Stable Diffusion groups. And I will, my handout with all the links has the links to that community and all of that. So you will see there how get connected with the community of Stable Diffusion.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cristina. And thank you all for attending. We do have another workshop coming up May 6th with our very own Adrienne Guy, my co-founder. So if you're interested in anything regarding augmented reality, we'll be working with Niantic. If you're familiar with that technology, even if you're not familiar and you're just curious, highly, highly recommend. Feel free to RSVP for that via our event calendar, which is on our website at creatorfest.com. And so you'll see that event there as well. So looking forward to seeing you all at future workshops, and have a great rest of your Tuesday, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.